Hello friends, it's Kayla. Welcome back to my channel. You are here for part 2, episode 2, video number 2 of a 4-part series where I read book community favorites from 2023. I guess we need to get a leaderboard going. So here at the top of the list is currently BookTube. It has no competitors quite yet, but this video will see if Bookstagram wins or BookTube wins. In this video, I'm going to read 5 books mentioned by 5 creators in their top favorite books of the year. This isn't reading Bookstagram's favorite books. That would be an entirely different list. This is about finding the people who have the most in common with me already shown in their favorites list and me picking one more from them. Now, I have been bookmarking every single favorites list, or what looks like a favorites list. I've been trying not to look too deeply at it because I want to find out with you what my TBR is going to be. There's quite a few to scroll through and we're just going to be counting over and over again to figure out who has the most in common with me. Now, some creators have both YouTube and Instagram. Some have TikTok and YouTube. So me allotting them into one of these videos was just based on maybe what their biggest platform is or where I find myself engaging with them most. So I know Lindsay is on here somewhere and I think we're going to start there because she is also on YouTube, but I first discovered her on Instagram. And because she was on my YouTube playlist, I know that we have some things in common. So Lindsay from Books&Lindsay posted favorites and honorable mentions, both count towards the total. And it looks like we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 in common. Now, what I have to choose from for her is a horror, a fantasy. I'm not sure what that one is. I think it might be YA though. And then from honorable mentions, YA, graphic novels. Considering she has a romance I didn't like, I don't want to pick the other romance. So my only option that I realistically think I have the possibility of enjoying is Mayfly. I can't imagine anybody gets more than 11 besides maybe Justin. So Mayfly is the first of 5 on my TBR. And I already know what I'm picking from Justin if we do have a bunch in common. So, okay, here's his favorites. Justin and Lindsay are the 2 that I had the most in common with last year as well. In fact, Justin's favorites last year, I didn't even get the chance to read something because I had already read everything on his favorites list, and I didn't want that to happen this year. So I was assuming a certain book was going to show up on his favorites, so I put it off. I had it on my December TBR and I put it off because I thought there might not be any other options. So let's see, as far as favorites, we've got everything. Our Share of Night, Monsteralia, The Adventures of Mina Rafi, Our Ways Under the Sea, A Diary of Blood, We Spread, The Only Good Indians, Leave the World Behind. Just my perfect weird taste. Justin is there with me. To choose from, I have The Watchers, The Wonder State, Old Country, and then moving to honorable mentions, which is going to bring us past 8 in common, I think, with The Last Word, Part of Your World, Notes on an Execution, and Such a Fun Age. We now have 12, so that beat Lindsay, and there's actually a lot for me to choose from here. I'm not really into the memoirs. I don't think I want to read another Ashley Audrain. I could definitely go for Boys in the Valley. That one is appealing to me, but I did put off The Wonder State, assuming this would be in his favorites, and it is. And I actually own both of the books that I have planned to read now, and now we need to get to some scrolling because I have no idea who in here is going to align with me perfectly. I see 5 in common here, 2 in common here, 1 from that one. This person posts individual reviews of everything. So I see 1, 2, oh, just 2. From Kenzie, I see 2. Ashley, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in common. Adriana and I only have 3 in common this year. Hannah and I have just 1. Darian, we don't have many in common, but she has Mayfly, which I'm going to be reading, and she likes Bunny and Throne of the Fallen, which I do too. So that makes Mayfly feel more promising. Ooh, this one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 with Emily. I love the favorite stacks where I have like never heard of any of the books. Ooh, okay. Promising here with Roxanne. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 just on the first page. 7, 8, 9. Although there's a couple things on here I didn't love. I could choose Trust. I don't know what that is. I could choose How to Not Drown in a Glass of Water. I think I've heard of that. Or Now Is Not the Time to Panic by Kevin Wilson, who was in my top 10 favorites of last year. That feels like the easy choice here. Okay, that's 3 books and 3 creators. Hopefully we find people around 9 and 10 because it is possible. Okay, favorite fantasy. Oh my gosh, there's so much here. 1, 2, 3, Oh, that's it. I wonder if she did other favorites, fiction favorites. We have 4, 5. Favorite romances, none there. Favorite thrillers down the line. Historical favorites. Okay, that brings us to 6. Let's keep that in mind. Evie and I always have so much in common. This year, only 2. Another person with Mayfly, but he also has 2 books that I didn't like in his favorites. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's Amanda, so let's keep that in mind. Ooh. Okay, this person posted monthly favorites. This is Anna. So we've got 2 in common in January. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, that's 9. Oh gosh, there are so many things here that I could pick. Kind of want to go with something weird like Lapvona. Paradise Rot I've heard is like disgusting. Either I Who Have Never Known Men or Minor Detail. That's what I'm gravitating towards with this pick. So thank you, Anna. Now we're looking for one more person unless certain things like get bumped. Ooh, Elaine. Okay, this is all of her 4 and 5 star reads. I don't know if that would be considered favorites. What do you think? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1 there. That's a crisp photo. Ellis, we've got 2 in common. Zuki, just 1, but it's a good one. Book the Most Precious Substance. Chelsea has pages of favorites. Favorite thrillers, favorite literary fiction, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, with an all-time favorite being Happy Place. I kind of want to pick The Wishing Game. It's listed as favorite audiobooks, which I still feel like counts as a favorite book, but I think I should choose something from her actual top 10 at the beginning because there are a lot to choose from. The Unmaking of June Farrow is vaguely appealing to me. I don't have a thriller yet, so maybe The Quiet Tenant could be a good pick. I've seen that in quite a few different lists as we went through, and I know I've heard of it, but I don't know what it is. So we're gonna go with that if I can confirm that nobody else has more than 10. The Quiet Tenant is also on this list, but only 4 in common for us. I see so many things that I recognize, but it doesn't mean I love them, and then I get excited too early. Those are all the posts I have saved over the last like month. So we've got some weird, I think like light surrealism, a horror book, a thriller, and a fun, silly one. I think I feel good about this list, and I'll check in with you when I start reading something. I've decided on the first book. I'm going to start with Mayfly. I am currently making a picture, a graphic for my friend Jan, for reasons, and Jan also loved this. So I just feel like this will be an interesting taste test. To begin with, this tripod was sitting very precariously. I don't know why I thought that would stay. This is about a female serial killer, right? Oh, hey, it was blurred by Stephen Graham Jones. He said it's gory, brutal, beautiful, painful, terrifying, and a pure delight. As I work on this, I'm just gonna pick up the audiobook because I could get it from the library, and I'll just listen and see if it's good. I have made it to the halfway point, and I really have no feelings about this yet. I don't know if I'm really liking it. I don't know if it's gonna start to feel horror. I feel like what I knew about this was that it was about a female serial killer, and people liked it because it was just so like intense, and she had no reason behind her killing and no, you know, traumatic backstory that led her to be who she is, and she was just like killing without a conscience because that's what so many male serial killers get to be in fiction. And so there was like this appreciation for the work. At this point, not a lot, like she's talking about killing people, but I haven't felt this gruesome or intense, torturous kind of story that I thought it was going to be. And maybe it is going in that direction. And at the halfway point, we've set up enough of this character to care about what she's doing. She basically is Elsa at Disneyland. That's the implication. Other princesses, I'm sure, that aren't owned by Disney have been mentioned, but not Anna and Elsa. And she has this friendship with the girl who works with her. And I don't know, she's just talking about her job and her life. And it's fine. And I don't necessarily want it to get gruesome because like my favorite horror is not the splatterpunk variety, but I'm assuming like that's where it's going. I hate this cover so much, like desperately hate this cover. Eyeballs, I hate them. I know kind of like controversial opinion because everybody loves a revenge story and like a badass female character who's like taking out all the men who are terrible. That's not my favorite type of story. I've only really liked a handful of revenge stories. I often just don't find the stories that interesting. And I wonder if it's going to feel revengey because there are some things that she's mentioning that like maybe is where her killing is going to go in that direction. I don't know how to feel about it, but it is a fast read. Maybe I'll finish it before bed. I don't know. What an absolute range of emotions I just went through. I really thought that I would be in the 5-star or 1-star camp because that's just where I see everybody else existing. I'm more on this side. I had a good time. I was not expecting, okay, this is, ooh, if you've read this book, this is fucked up. I wasn't expecting there to be a relationship. I wasn't expecting to like the relationship. I did. Yikes. I just really, this didn't go the direction that I thought it would. I thought it would be far more extreme. I just didn't think we'd be following like the kind of mundane activities of her life. It felt, for the first 90%, like reading an Elliot Wake book. It felt like Black Iris. It felt like just a gritty perspective that's not enjoyable to read from a person who's just like, I'm so sick and twisted, look at me. Like it did get into trauma. It got into her experiences with grief and with hardship, and it's not like anything I've ever read before, especially once we got into the last, it was really only 10-15% that was truly torture heavy, which is not like what I'm interested in reading, but it obviously is what the book intended to be, and therefore I respect how much of the book was focused on her being a fucked up murderous individual. The book made me feel a lot of things like disgust for characters, but that's what it meant to do. I think it had all of the commentary that people said it did. It just took a while to kind of get there. And it's nothing necessarily new in that way. I don't think it said anything groundbreaking. And if you want to be in the head of this kind of insufferable main character who is making like poor decisions and is aware of that, but also has some depth to her personality and history that we explore, I don't see why you wouldn't get what you want out of this. I don't think it's the extreme horror that it feels like it's going to be from beginning to end. I feel like I'm giving it a 4. That feels too high, but it also feels right. I now have all of the books ready for this video. This one came from my TBR. This one came from my TBR. I got this one from the library, and I went out and purchased The Quiet Tenant. I think after this experience, I need to read something light and silly. Not that this wasn't silly in a dark way, but let's see how this one goes. Now is Not the Time to Panic by Kevin Wilson. Let's have a little intermission for a book haul because I need to show you something that I bought. First up, I had some books delivered to me. The Dove in the Belly, which was picked from a member's TBR jar. I also had my pre-order of Feybound arrive. Look how pretty. I don't know how I'm gonna fit this into a video yet, but I must. I grabbed 2 books that I loved last year but didn't own. I gave a 4.5 to both of these and read them from the library originally, and so I got my own copies. And then the thrift store really killed it. I found A Woman Is No Man. I recently read Evil Eye and said I wanted to go back and read some other things from that author. I found The Leftover Woman by Jean Kolk, who I've read from before. I got Boys in the Valley, which I've been wanting to read. This actually is also one of the ones that was on Justin's list. So I guess in the off chance that The Wonder State I start and just immediately hate, I have backup. But the most either exciting thing that I got or the most poor decision that I made is Now Is Not the Time to Panic, because obviously I have it out from the library already, but it was there and it was a couple dollars, and in the off chance that I love it, I'm gonna want to own it. I think the most fun thing about Bookstagram of all of these episodes in the series is this is the one I know the least about any of these books because the synopsis was not in the description, and I didn't like look any of them up, mostly because I was pulling books I have already heard of or already on my TBR. This one is The Outlier. But I will let you know, maybe, how long is this? 230 pages. After the first 50, I'll let you know what it's actually about, because I have no clue. I don't even know what to tell you about this book. I don't even know how to describe it. It is 11 p.m. I put my glasses on. Thank you to everybody who's been holding me accountable. I am doing it. I'm liking it, like, a lot, but what is the plot? Not sure how to explain it. It's reminding me of Kevin Wilson. Shocker. It's reminding me of this and that Hank Green book for some reason. Maybe there's just something in common that like middle-aged men have when they write teenage girls. I don't know. But much like this is a found family story that started in surrealism, this is a coming of age story that it's not surreal in the same way. It's just like, huh? We're following this girl named Frankie, and she meets this boy named Zeke, and they become fast friends. Are they more? They're not even sure. And they make this piece of art, and we flash forward into Frankie's adulthood, and she's being contacted by people saying like, you're the one who started this whole thing. You're the one who like changed the, like, killed, like, people are dead because of you, tell your story. So then mostly we're following Zeke and Frankie as they create art, these posters, this like poetry or whatever, and they post it around town, and then other people start posting it around town, and it becomes like, I thought the power just went out, it was just my laptop. It becomes like this movement, and like there's like, it flashes to like a country who's been affected by the words on this poster, and like people are chanting the words that Frankie created, not knowing that it's her or knowing how the movement even started or what the movement's supposed to be, which is nothing because they just like made this weird poster, but how people around the world have like taken it and like used it in their own way is so fucking weird. But it's also just like slow and just following this friendship and like them going on random little day trips around their area. Still haven't read the synopsis, but did I basically sum it up? Basically, yeah. It says, it's an exploration of young love, identity, and the power of art. It's also about the secrets that haunt us and ultimately what the truth will set free. There's just something about his writing style that is so compelling. Like, I'm on the edge of my seat. I want to find out, like, what all is going to happen and the impact of everything. And if these people are going to have a relationship into their adulthood, like anything could happen from here. One of them could die. One of them could find out it was all a dream. Like, I don't have any clue where the story's going. I'm just about to go into a hair appointment, so I got to make this fast. But I finished this. I really liked it. I'm giving it it's either like a 4 or a 4.5. That doesn't matter in this moment though, because all we know is the video's getting a star. So we're on the same trajectory as the booktube video, which feels very good and very powerful. I don't want to spoil what's happening in their adult lives, but that is only like a third, I would say, of the book. But there's just a lot of like decisions to be made, and there's no surprises. There's nothing shocking in here. It's not as funny as the last thing I read from him, but it's just as quirky and as odd. And I think that I do get drawn to these like platonic-ish male-female friendships that start in high school, and then we see them down the line and where they've gone and if they're still connected. And in that way, I don't want to say it reminded me of the Pallbearers Club, but I do think that there's something with this vibe that I really connect with. And I don't pick up a ton. When I say I'm drawn to, I mean like I usually enjoy it, but I don't pick it up intentionally, and maybe I should. Very happy that I did buy it when I saw it and that I get to own it. And that also means that this author is up for a potential like favorite authors list, because I gave it a 4.5. I gave the other one a 5. If I read from him one more and give him a high rating, which I just like can't imagine not, there's something that I love about his writing style. I think I could call him a favorite author in the future. Somebody who I hadn't heard of until last year. And it was also the first time that I read Kevin Wilson was in last year's booktube favorites because of Lindsay. I seem to have been reading a lot of books lately. I'm thinking of Disorientation from my last video that has some commentary on art, the creation of art, and how you have no ownership of it after you put it out into the world. And I just find that really interesting. There's someone sitting right beside me now and I'm gonna be late. So I'll see you in a minute with the next book. Okay, I'm done. I chopped it off, she chopped it off, we chopped it off. Feeling fine and fresh, gonna start a thriller. Not sure what it's about. A tenant implies that somebody is living on their property and they stay very secluded into themselves. But then one day, what, they like find a dead body? Let's find out. A psychological thriller about a serial killer narrated by his 13-year-old daughter, his girlfriend, and the one victim he has spared. Okay, so kind of Notes on an Execution vibes. A hardworking family man, somewhat beloved figure. He's a kidnapper and a serial killer. Aiden has murdered 8 women and there's a 9th he has earmarked for death. Rachel, imprisoned in a backyard shed, fearing for her life. Oh, is she the quiet tenant? I don't want to continue reading on. I'm just gonna dive into the book and then I'll give you my first impressions. I've got thoughts. Okay. Is that my Invisalign? Oh my God. Actually, fun fact, I'm at the point in my Invisalign journey that I only wear them to sleep now, and that's really exciting. That also means that I leave them everywhere. Anyway, something that I don't think about very often is other people's favorites and how they correspond with each other. Because I don't think that you could look at my list of favorites from this year and say they all have something in common, or because she liked this science fiction that was a serious tone, then the thriller probably has a serious tone. Because this nonfiction was really well written, that must mean that this speculative book is really well written. You can't connect the dots like that with my favorites lists. But with other people's favorites lists, I should have been able to ascertain, perhaps because Chelsea has a lot of serious topics here, and these books are all saying important things. They're all shedding light on something valuable to the reader. You can assume that that is also the intent of this one. And if a mystery thriller is going to make my favorites list, it's because it just stood out amongst the others as far as how far it went, how ridiculous it was, how differently written it was. And it's not that this type of book doesn't work for me, but it feels like one of those ones that I will say at the end, I appreciate the messages that it gave. I think this book has something important to say and that's valuable, but it wasn't super interesting to read. So I'm calling it now, and I might be wrong, but a little over a third of the way in, I feel like I might have made a mistake. We are following a woman and it's written in second person, so you are the woman and you're being held captive and you are being assaulted regularly by this man who to everybody else is perfect. But then there are other POVs that come into it from other women he's interacted with, his daughter, various people who I'm sure we're going to eventually learn that what he's doing, and they're going to save this woman. She's going to save herself. She's going to get out of this circumstance because that's just the type of book that this should be. And I think that's all fine and good and necessary and valuable. It's just not something that I feel like current day I'm that interested in picking up, is books that highlight the horrific things that characters are going through their own eyes. Even if the goal of the book is good, even if it does things tastefully, even if I give it a high rating at the end, it's not something that I want to read. I don't want to be reading this anymore. But that doesn't mean it's gonna get a low rating, and I feel like I'm just gonna commit to it because it can give the video a star. Like, I don't see why it wouldn't. It's just feeling like a lot to have to be physically reading 200 more pages of this, staring at circumstances that it's not gratuitous. It's just like, it's bleak. It's very sad. Even if you know that there's a hope-filled ending, if there isn't, like, I can't imagine why this would be on somebody like Chelsea's favorites list. And by that, I mean amongst the other things that she's enjoyed. I know this isn't a really positive update. I just wanted to tell you where I'm currently at, and I'm gonna finish it. I don't know. I don't know how to talk about this. Oh my gosh, there was this moment at page 165 where two people are sitting in a truck talking about something, talking about the reason why she doesn't watch many movies. And she goes, I don't like investing 2-3 hours of my time only to end up disappointed or sad. And like, that's how I feel. But I can't shit on this book. This book did absolutely nothing wrong. In fact, I have read a couple really similar books, I would say 2-3 years ago, and gave them like a 3 and a 4 star. So it does feel wrong to me not respecting it and giving it a 3, because I think if I had read this before other books that were nearly identical, I could have appreciated it more. And obviously what I appreciate is the message. The book did everything it set out to do, said everything that it wanted to say, and it said it just fine. Clemence Michelon is somebody I will probably pick up more from in the future. I didn't realize until I was looking back on the footage how many people had this in their favorites, and I think it makes sense. I absolutely understand why people would enjoy this. It's not my like current favorite type of mystery, thriller, or suspense. This is, in my opinion, a pure 100% suspense, should be just in the suspense category. And obviously I don't know anything else about these people, just like the photo they posted on Bookstagram. But I feel like I would most recommend this to true crime fans. It gives that feeling of triumph that so many women never get. So it feels really shitty of me to give this under a 3, but I am giving it under a 3. I don't need to be specific about it, but the video is not getting a star based on this book, so we need to move forward. There's nothing else I can tell you about the plot. It is the same tone from beginning to end. Same plot, same characters. It was clearly thoughtful and intentional, and I respect that and the people who love this. And in the moments where I was thinking, should I go back and pick something else, I didn't get to do that for the first video either. So I think just like what I committed to, yes, it needs to be things that I think I'm interested in, but it involves not reading the synopsis of everything, because there also needs to be a certain amount of randomness to it, I think, to be fully exploring people's favorites in this capacity. Because I should be able to pick anything off of a list, because we have so much in common. But we're gonna move on to something that I think is a little less bleak, which I don't think you would call this. So we're gonna go to the Wonder State. Okay, it may have taken 20 chapters, but I feel invested. Basically, there's 2 timelines. One where this group of friends is just becoming friends and they're teenagers, and then one where they're adults and they're coming back together. They've been called back, but the friend that called them back is now missing. And it took me this long to really get into it because I'm enjoying the teen timeline more, and it's reminiscent to me of Kay Ancrum, who's one of my favorite authors. It's just this unexpected friendship, this quiet closeness right away. They basically find out about these houses that have some weirdness to them, and they're all kind of connected, so they're trying to find other houses that have this weird quality. It's kind of like when you're playing with a Ouija board, or people, not in real life, but like movies and TV, when people are playing with a Ouija board and it starts actually working and everybody's questioning each other, like, are you controlling it? Is everybody seeing what I'm seeing? They're trying to just gauge how everybody is interacting with this weird magic, like light magic within these houses. And now they want to see how far they can push the magic or control the magic, prove that it's real. And it's bringing in this interesting question to some characters of like, how do you care about real life anymore once you know that there is another plane of reality? How do you continue going to school and just doing mundane activities when you know more than you're supposed to know? So something obviously went down that ended their friendship, that sent them on their separate ways, and now as adults they have to grapple with that, but also they're trying to figure out where their friend is. Liam is currently getting his braces tightened, and then we're going to hockey, so I have plenty of time to get through this. I'm just itching to pick it back up, so that's where I'm at. Great news for the Bookstagram community. They're getting a star. We're on track for potentially tying BookTube, depending how this goes, or even beating it if it's incredible. Also, if this gets 5 stars, I can cancel the 1995 episode of trying to find a 5-star from every year that I've been alive, because that episode's coming up and this is from that year. It's actually what I was going to read for that video, but I'm going to get to read it tomorrow instead. The Wonder State was a 4-star. I really liked it. It had the perfect amount of surrealist stuff, but also a mystery moving the plot along. All of these relationship dynamics, it was like the perfect size group, but we still had a main character we were focused on. My only critique is that it could have been tightened up. It could have been shorter. It could have not had, you know, some B-plot stuff going on. But at the same time, I liked everything that happened. I know some people might not love like that we're focused so much on romance. I saw like one review that said that. So maybe that's a common feeling for people, but I love when we're focused on like relationships. And it's just really interesting to see the ways that this house changes people, and while they're in the houses, the types of friendships that they are creating and the ways that they feel as people. And maybe they don't bring that same energy into real life. So it's like this escapist portion of everybody's existence. And then how as adults they need to finally decide to let go of that piece of their life, or take it to its full completion. Like, I don't want to spoil exactly what's going on in these houses, but it does feel like this kind of quest. Like they all have to come back and they have to finish what they started years ago. It's a kind of book that ends and I felt like I could have had an emotional reaction, and maybe I should have had an emotional reaction, but there was something distancing me just a little bit from the characters that just wasn't a full 5-star. And I know people are going to say that, and have said that, I should do the video in the way that I just like take the average of all the ratings and that's how I pit them against each other. That's like the obvious way to go about this. And I just didn't want to do it that way. I like organizing it by books I didn't like, books I liked, and books I loved, instead of 1 to 5 stars. And also at the end, if there is the potential, then we see some things tied up, then we can do the actual math and figure out where things land. It also leaves me with less pressure in the video to solidify my rating, and I kind of like that. Oh, one other thing about this is I feel like it would be a good transition for people who are traditionally reading YA and maybe you are aging out of it. This would be a good transition because it's equally following teens and adults. Happy to have read it. It was a 2023 release that I haven't seen too much about. I think it only has like 500 ratings or so, which I am actually going to do a video soon reading some of the books that I had anticipated for 2023 that like nobody has read, and I want to see if they deserve some more hype. I'll read more from that author for sure. Really liked the writing. And I'll see you for my last book tomorrow. Good afternoon, my friends. This morning was the most beautiful sunrise ever, and now I'm taking some bookmark pictures for the Etsy shop. I just like to lay out my most recent sweater purchase. This was from Anthropologie, in case anybody wanted to know. Maybe you didn't, maybe you think it's ugly, I don't know. But I lay it out, I find a book. I'm gonna use Emily Wilde today, and then I just flip it open, put a bookmark down, and go to town. My mom and I are placing bets on which one's gonna sell first. She says this one, but I think it's gonna be this one with the big dragonfly, just because I love the stone so much. I don't even remember what either of these are called. My mom is the crystal queen. I'm just her obedient servant. Anyway, here's what I love about reading these tightly bound paperbacks is that you don't have to use a bookmark because you can clearly see how much of the book has been read because all the pages are like splayed out, and then these ones are all so tightly packed. So I'm on page 70 of 160, and I didn't read the synopsis first. I've had this on my TBR since I feel like 2019 when it originally came out, when it was translated to English. And I can't remember where I even heard of it, but then suddenly right after I bought it, I saw a whole bunch of people reading it, and it's been a consistent favorite on people's lists for the last like 3 years. So clearly it's something special. Now, we've been introduced to this young girl who is in this like underground prison with all of these women, and nobody knows how they got there. Nobody has like a lot of real memories from the time before, but a lot of them haven't spent their entire lives there. But this younger girl has pretty much spent her entire life there. And now she's in her older teens, I think. And the synopsis does talk about how she is going to change things and like what the women are going to like have the opportunity to get out. It says she will show herself to be the key to the others' escape and survival in the strange new world that awaits them above ground. So it's not a spoiler to say, but I didn't know that they do in fact get out of the like bunker way earlier in the book than I was thinking, because I didn't know they got out at all. It's kind of like when, is this a spoiler? I don't think so. Like Room by Emma Donoghue is about this survival in captivity, but a lot of the book is actually the aftermath, and I didn't know that. So now that they're out in the real world, I feel like I have to talk about that because like that is the plot of now more than 50% of the book. I'm just so curious like what's gonna happen, how they're going to find food, if they're gonna travel somewhere else, if someone's going to come and take care of them or try to hold them captive again. Like I have no idea. There were these guards and there's 40, was it 40? Yeah, 40 women, and they had these prison guards essentially. And so it's like, are they part of this experiment? Are they being punished? Are they the only ones left on the planet? Like nobody knows. And they also haven't had access to like education or anything. So they don't know anything about anything. And so they're just coming out and they're now having to create their own society and make decisions. It's not written in chapters or anything. It's just blocks of text. So I remember when I read the first chapter of Everything on My TBR Shelf, that video, I picked this book and I stopped at page like 14 or something because there were chapter breaks, and I was already getting bogged down by the amount of information and how there was nothing breaking up the narrative. But now I'm completely hooked. I can't wait to see what happens. I was reading it a little bit last night and I woke up this morning and I was like, I need to get back to that book to find out what on earth they're gonna do. So that's definitely a good feeling to be had. And it was translated by Ross Schwartz. So let me go read 100 pages, finish this up, and I'll check in with you. I just wanted to check in because I'm so just interested in the world that they live in and if we're gonna even get any answers towards it. So something I said earlier wasn't true, that they don't know anything. It's that their memories are really foggy and unclear from when they got, you know, taken or whatever happened to them and put into this bunker. All of the women are different ages, but they like got there at the same time. And so all of them were at different stages in life. And so some of them were teachers, some of them, you know, they had different various careers, nursing, and they have memories from their life before. So they've just never had to use any of the skills because they're so controlled. All they do is they just sit there all day in this bunker and they like aren't even really allowed to touch each other. But now that they have to figure out stuff for themselves, they are talking about their lives before and taking their skills and using it in the group. Now that they're out though, I just find like the landscape really interesting, and it's saying like they've been out there for a long time now. Like time is passing so fast in such a short amount of pages, and it's like always warm, and I'm just wondering if they're in a climate that is always warm even at night, or if they are like in the future and it's supposed to be like a climate expectation that the earth is hotter. And then also they're walking around and it's like I said, it's been a long time and they have never seen an animal, but they haven't like referenced it. None of them have been like, oh, isn't it weird? I just have noticed we haven't seen any animals. And so that makes me wonder where they are in time and where they are in location. I have a feeling I'm not gonna get to know, and I'm deciding if that's something I'm okay with. Was that a 5-star read? I think that might have been a 5-star read. I'm kind of surprised so many people love this. I'm thinking back to the BookTube video when I read The Center and I said the same thing. That's like, I wouldn't recommend this to everybody. I think it's a little too like out there. Feels like more of a classic tale, so like I recognize people would appreciate it for that, but I also think it's just kind of lacking like a big moment, an impact, a reveal, a twist. Like it doesn't have that type of thing. Regardless if it's a 4 or a 5, it wins. It has just beat BookTube. BookTube ended with 3.5 stars and this video is ending with 4. I didn't like any book in this video more than The Center, but I also feel like The Center isn't even like a 5-star like favorite book of the year unless the rest of my 5s go the same. Like there are a range of 5s. I actually really hate the trend of people referring to things as 6-star reads, but I would say like I haven't had a 6-star read. This and The Center are clearly 5s, but I don't foresee them being in my favorite books of the year if my reading year goes as it traditionally does, where I find like things that maybe you would call 6-star reads. Anyway, I didn't see that coming. Thanks so much for joining me this time. Thank you, Bookstagram, for recommending things to me. Actually, this just justified me splitting this up into a series because I wouldn't have read this many Bookstagram favorites. And maybe if I had read 15 from BookTube like last year, I would have found more favorites anyway. But I feel good about prioritizing different social media sites in different videos. So, TikTok, I'm coming for you next. What? Hold on. I just realized this cover is a book that I have. If I can get my hands on an ARC, then I'm definitely gonna read that. This book is exhausting.